All right, my friends, welcome to another episode of the RPG Backlog. This is Larry, ProfPlaysGames from the ProfPlaysGames podcast. We have Scott here, and we are finally going to dig into Undertale. This is Undertale Episode 1. And wow, last podcast said that we would break it up into chunks of the ruins and then Snowdin, and we'd get to Waterfall in our third episode, but the game moved a little faster than I thought, and we did the first two chunks together. We did the ruins and Snowdin together in one chunk, so we're going to cover those today. Before we dig into details, Scott, what did you think overall of this first chunk here?
Well, when it first started off, I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and it was it kind of throws you out there, and you have to kind of figure things out yourself. But once you got past like the tutorial stage and into Snowdin, I thought it was just amazing. At first I wasn't very sure of it, and then when we got to Snowdin, I was just laughing so much. Just having such a ball playing it.
I have similar thoughts, and I'm really glad that we did these two chunks together instead of just a podcast on the ruins, because I feel like those two sections are very different. Yeah. Where, the beginning is very much like, here's how the game works. It seemed very straightforward, and I was thinking through the entire ruins, this is the game that everyone loves and finds like very subversive and, kind of throwing RPGs on their head.
I mean, it was cute. It was humorous. It was, I don't know, maybe a little twee or something. But yeah, it wasn't like so amazing that I would rush out and tell people about it. I was just like, okay, this is okay. It's like, It's very much in the style of a Japanese console RPG from like the mid 80s or maybe late 80s. Which I wasn't expecting, like I didn't know, but it has like that user interface and the sort of wonky, blocky, semi 3D world that you're walking around in. I don't know. It's like it's very much reminds me of like these console games like that from like the 80s.
It's really funny that you say that, because there was a Japanese role-playing game called Moon from that period. Are you familiar with that game?
No. I played Phantasy Star on the Sega Master System. Which is kind of had a... But it's like the whole interface, like the dialogue is in blocks, and it types out and it makes like little sounds depending on the character as the letters are appearing on the screen. And... just like you go to a shop and it's like buy, sell, talk are the options.
Yeah,
and,
right.
The whole look and feel of it is very much like of those games that you would play like on the Sega, the Nintendo. Like, I don't know, I'm like late 80s, mid 80s, I don't know.
The inspiration, Toby Fox has talked about his inspiration for this game being a game called Moon, which I thought was from the 80s, but actually I just Wikipedia'd it real fast. It's from 1997. It came out on PlayStation only in Japan, and this is the premise. And he says that he didn't play the game, but he saw it or in some way took it in, and it was the inspiration for this game. Moon is set within a fictional role-playing game where the hero has wreaked destruction, killing hundreds of creatures and looting homes. The player takes on the role of a supporting character in this world, attempting to undo the damage done by the hero. Moon has been praised by critics for how it parodies conventions and tropes of role-playing games.
Right, because you go around killing everything and stealing everything.
Yeah, because I'm sure actually, I don't know how you are playing this game, what experience you had in Snowdin. For me, there were a couple of enemies. I mean, I was definitely killing a number of enemies, but there's specifically the mini boss in Snowdin called Doggy, which are two dogs.
Marriage?
Yeah, the married dogs, exactly.
Yeah.
Did you spare them or kill them?
I defeated them. I don't know if that, like, are they dead? I don't know.
Well, that's true. I defeated them too. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what it means, but I do know. And later, when I was walking around Snowdin, a couple of people were commenting on how bad it is that some of their friends haven't come home, and there's a Christmas present under the tree. Did you click on it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, oh fuck, I'm the person who is wreaking havoc on this town and killing everyone who actually lives here.
But see, this is the thing, like, the game doesn't really tell you what is going on. Like, I don't quite... So, like, when you first start off, you're, like, a little kid. You don't have any weapons that I know of. I guess you're actually armed with a stick, but I didn't realize that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Like, I thought it was just, like, a little kid who fell down a hole, and then these monsters are attacking you, and I'm just, like, running away. Because I don't know, like, I don't have a weapon. What am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a little kid, and this is, like, a monster. So I just keep running away. But when you run away, you get, like, 0 XP, 0 gold. Yeah, and then you run into a situation where you can, like, buy some, like, spider donuts or something.
Yep, in the spider webs. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it costs gold. And I was like, oh, I guess I should have been fighting all this time.
Because you had no gold at that moment.
Right, instead of running away. And so then I started fighting and killing things, or defeating them. I don't know what happens to them. And you get XP and you get gold, and I've been leveled up. I'm like level 7 now or something.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
But one thing I've, like, you know, sort of found in playing is that, like, so there's a fight, and then there's act, and then the actions that are available to you, like, change depending on what you're facing.
Exactly.
Which is something I realized at first. Like, I faced, like, some, I don't know. But it's interesting, like, some things, and, like, acting may do nothing.
Yep.
Or it may, like, end the fight.
It's a very interesting risk reward, because sometimes it will end it and you don't defeat them, and maybe that brings good things in the end. I don't know. But sometimes it does nothing, and then you just set yourself up to be attacked again, and you have to dodge everything in that attack window. So at a certain point, I just gave up and started, you know, I would probably do like 1 act per fight, but if it didn't do anything for me, I would just go to attack. And I've mainly been killing most things that I've been interacting with.
Right. So the incentives are very much to just always fight all the time.
Seems like otherwise you don't have gold to buy anything, right?
Right. Or just run away all the time. Seems to work also.
Although I guess the only place where I found gold, if I recall correctly, was in what's his name? Spatula? That's not right. What's the big skeleton's name?
Papyrus.
Papyrus. There we go. Papyrus. And if you go back to his house after the fight, I spared him. I don't know if you did or didn't, but I spared him, went back, and we became friends and hung out. And then I was in his house and found money in his couch. So I guess I didn't defeat him, but found money.
Did I not search his couch? I thought I searched everything in his house, but I didn't find that.
Because you didn't defeat him either?
Well, okay, so I mean, that's sort of like the end of Snowdin when you had the big fight against Papyrus.
Yeah.
I just realized now that his brother's name Sans, and those are both like font references.
Oh my God, I did not realize that until you just said it. That's right. Oh, that's
interesting. Just put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, oh yeah, those are both like fonts.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Sans serif. But yeah, even before that, like when I was watching, you had streamed like your playing of it, and I was watching yours to see how like you had handled these things. So it doesn't tell you what you're doing.
Yeah.
So like the first thing you meet Toriel, I mean, first you meet a mean flower, and the flower attacks you, and you kind of learn like how you can move your heart around to avoid damage.
Right.
And then like the cow person, Toriel comes, and she says, here's a dummy or target dummy or something like that. Talk to it, stall for time, and I'll come rescue you. And so I did that. I went to act, and there's like some option to like, you know, intimidate or talk or something like that. And then you do that, and then she comes along and rescues you. Yep. You fought it and destroyed it, and then she comes along and scolds you for like, hey, what are you doing? This isn't these things aren't for fighting.
I was like, I thought I've seen these in games before. That's the point of this, is to learn how to attack. Oh no, it's not. what did you do, you monster? Which it kind of made me feel like it's setting up the rest of, or what I experienced in Snowdin, where it's like, you know, all these dogs or whatever, they live here. What are you doing killing them, you monster?
Married dogs.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, because it's an RPG, I'm supposed to kill things. Oh, maybe I'm not. Maybe this is different.
Yeah. And in the library in Snowdin, where like you read one of the books says something about how someone with a strong soul hurts monsters when you attack them or something. And
yeah, that's right.
Like trying to like, I mean, it seemed like it was trying to sort of generate some empathy for your foes. But at the same time, the game says, kill things, get stuff.
Yeah, that's the, you know, obviously playing so many RPGs, or video games in general, that is mainly the incentive, and it's just like you're just a murder hobo, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I love that there are other ways to play a game, but I swear to God, I just went on a murder spree anyways. Like, okay, this is the only way that I'm gonna. I feel like I need to level up. I feel like I need to be able to get gold to buy better equipment. I need to like get stronger, but now I'm wondering if you need to. I'm certainly on that path already. I'm not going to change. Like I'm already going, but I wonder if there's.
You can always change. You're not locked into any course of action. The other thing too is that it's like a lot more it takes more effort to like go over to act and figure out what you want to do and then see what it does and then recalibrate based on that. Whereas fight is just so easy. You just click on fight. Do damage, fight, do damage, fight, do damage. Like I think everything about the game like incentivizes you just fighting everything. But I do think you miss stuff by doing that.
We must be missing things because it's again, I'm just basing it on Snowdin, where there's like a sadness, there's like a pall over the city that maybe was already there anyways, but feels like it's there because their friends aren't there because I assume that I murdered them, which makes me think if I didn't, would this be different?
Right.
I'm curious about that. I'm curious if that feeds into people that I've heard on podcasts, at least, talk about how they've replayed this game again and again. I wonder if that adds to the replayability, and it must, because the way that you interacted with the dummy is different than the way that I interacted with it. So there's two very different outcomes there. So I wonder if that extends to the rest of the game.
Right. Well, as an example, the fight against Papyrus, I was playing with my daughter sitting next to me, and she was like, "Oh, do act." And I went over to act, and one of the options is to flirt with him.
Oh, I don't think I did that.
You didn't. You were just fighting him. So I was curious, like how it was different, how my experience was different from yours, especially when I saw that you just fought him to the point where he gave up, where he finally says, stop.
Yeah,
I just want to be your friend or whatever. But we just flirted with him over and over again, and he came to the point where he's like, "Oh, do you want to go on a date with me?" And it ends up playing out very similar to how yours plays out. The whole part with the friendship is instead like categorized as a date. Yeah,
because mine was like a hangout. We're like,
yeah.
We're talking about he's putting on different clothes, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Right, he does all that. Like it's very similar. But instead of talking about like, oh, let's be friends, let's hang out, it's like, oh, do you want to go on a date with me? And what should we do on the date? And all stuff like that. And the whole thing where he brings up like the HUD of like different readouts and things that like appear on the screen. Yep. Like those had like different labels on them for the date than they did.
And mine, because mine was like population crime. I was like, what the hell is happening here? Yours did not have that.
It had the same things, but I think they had different labels on them, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah, then we got I defeated him by like flirting with him. But then at some point, the flirting stopped working. And I had to punch him. So I think like in the end, it kind of ends up in the same place, but there's a different way of getting there.
It's almost like the Mass Effect problem. Where like,
what's that?
Where throughout the 3 games, you're making a ton of choices, and like it's like a diamond where you start at the same spot, and as you get through like the middle of 2 into the beginning of 3, you've like branched out. You could branch out in any direction, Paragon, Renegade, like bad, good, whatever. But as you get towards the end of 3, it funnels you back towards like the same, almost nearly the same ending. So,
right.
You
because it has to have only one ending. Like, you have to get to the climax or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what it's going to be here. And even the incentive for battling too, for some reason, I really like the fighting mechanic where it has that little square and you're a heart and you're like trying to dodge stuff, or if there's blue things, you have to hold still so that it can pass through you or whatever.
Right.
Something that is engaging about that for me, to the point where if you were watching the video, like I would wince every time I got hit. I was like, that I don't normally do that. It's very weird.
Well, like the screen shakes. I mean, I don't know. You feel like you're like flying around trying to avoid these things, and then they hit you, and it hurts. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's interesting too because like every monster has like a different like attack or multiple attacks.
Yeah, there's different things that like Papyrus are throwing bones, but there's others that are like wave patterns and big, tall bones, short bones. Boy, it was teardrops. Just so many different things that were just, I don't know I've never seen a battle system like that. So maybe it's, I don't know, maybe you have, maybe it's new, maybe it's not.
No. It's so interesting. Like, it has that sort of that period of, console RPGs. It has that, like, same, you get random encounters that just pop up out of nowhere and you have to fight them, and you have, like, the fight interface. But instead of, like, doing damage, you have, like, this weird eye shape with, like, a line moving back and forth.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, I thought maybe in the beginning, like, if you got it in the middle, that would do the most damage. But then I tried
that was true. No,
I tried, like, experimenting with, like, stopping different places. Then I don't know if it makes a difference.
Oh, maybe it's like a placebo. I thought I kept trying to get it in the middle because I thought it did the most damage, but maybe it doesn't. Huh? And I don't know what that represents, anyways. So
right, exactly. It doesn't tell you. It just doesn't tell you what to, like. This is fighting. This is where you should stop the bar when it's moving back and forth. It doesn't tell you anything. You just have to kind of like, oh, well, I'll press a button and it'll stop and then do damage.
I wonder if there's some. Yeah, so go ahead.
Oh no, and then like they're attacking you, so you have to move your heart around and not take damage.
It's very, very interesting. I wonder if by the end we're going to find out that eye thing, or I thought of it as like a canoe for some reason. It's going to it's going to turn out to be something else, or if it really is just nothing. I don't know. Wow, it's. I don't know. I guess I would want to go look at some videos of Moon to see like the gameplay systems, but this is so unique right now. I've never seen this anywhere else. I wonder if this is just created out of whole cloth. The story was that he created this game in 18 months using Game Maker Studio, I think. So it was almost like a fever dream. He kickstarted it and then just like did it. Versus the sequel right now is, I don't know if you know the sequel, Deltarune.
No.
It's an anagram of Undertale, Deltarune, and it's been in development for like 7 years now. There's like 2 chapters out, but there's supposed to be like 6 or so. It's just taking a very long time, as opposed to how quick this was. And I don't know, maybe magic in the bottle. I just felt that the juxtaposition of the ruins versus Snowdin was so effective because it just felt very, different, but samey. And then when you get to Snowdin, it's very opposite. I was laughing constantly. It's just so much laughter. It's like, what the shopkeeper, when you buy stuff, like, that's all cool. You buy I think I bought like a manly bandana or whatever to like raise my defense. And then I went to sell something. She's like, what are you doing?
I don't want to buy your crap.
Yeah. I don't buy, what do you think I'm going to buy, sticks and bandages? It's like, actually, yeah, that's how this works. Oh. So I was like, well, how do you make money in this game if you don't kill things? Jeez.
And you can't sell things.
At least to that person. I've never seen another. I haven't seen another one, so maybe there's a.
Yeah, we come across more merchants. Maybe they'll be different.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's like a limit on things you can carry. So I've been putting all my old equipment into the magic box that shows up every now and then. Yep,
reminds me of D&D, like the the name of it. I can't remember the bag where it's like the ever holding or.
The bag of holding.
That's it, yeah. Maybe there is a limit to how many things you can put in that box, but I don't know. There's just something very charming, charming about the game, and I think there are games, and I can't name any off the top of my head right now, that try to subvert the genres and kind of go overboard with that, and this just feels, I don't know if authentic's the right word, but it just feels, it doesn't feel overdone. It feels...
it's earnest.
Yeah, it feels very earnest and also like very quick. Like we don't spend too much time, which I think is helpful for a game like this. I got through the ruins and I was like, shit, I did that in an hour. That's going to be a very short podcast. Maybe we should keep going. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. The different things you can do besides attacking.
And it's just, again, like it doesn't tell you anything, which is sort of the mystifying part to me. Like I'm so used to having like my handheld at this point, but it doesn't. Like I was very curious. Part of the reason why I watched your stream of it was I wanted to see how you handled the ghost in the ruins, because that thing like confounded me. Just like the ghost laying down, blocking your path.
Oh, on the bridge or whatever, right?
No, it's just like a room.
Oh, okay.
And you can't get around it, and so like, you have to fight it. Yeah. And it like cries, and it was like the toughest thing I had faced at that point. I think I had to do it like once or twice to like defeat it. But even then, it says like, "Oh, I was just lowering my health so you wouldn't feel bad."
Oh, that's right.
And it disappears, and you lose an experience point.
And I'm like, God. Yeah, that's
what
right.
the hell is that? Like, what did I do something wrong? Is there some other way to do this? Is there some other way to solve this? Now I'm thinking that I should have like done more like acts. You know, maybe if I had like talked to it more, maybe like that was a proper way. Not the proper way, but that was like a way to get around it without having to fight it. But
there has to be a way to get around it that's not defeating it, because that must be a way to play this game where you just don't defeat anything.
But is it? I don't know. Like that's what I'm not sure about.
I guess I'm just basing it, and again, maybe this is subversion. But, you know, I'm just, like the dummy, for example, when I defeated the dummy, she says, "You don't want to hurt anyone, do you?" And it's like, they're almost presenting that as an option. And because there are ways, it's almost like puzzly ways to get out of the fights, where some of those act choices do nothing, but some of them do. And there probably are some combinations. I'm struggling to remember which ones I got out of using just acts, but I would do an act and then it wouldn't end, but if I did it again, it would end. I can't remember which one that was, but I wonder.
Right. Yeah, like you can get them to a state where you can spare them.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if you can do that for everyone. And they mentioned at some point, and I cannot remember why, but they said some characters have yellow names and some don't. Did you catch that?
Right, so if they have a yellow name, that means that you can then go over to Mercy, the Mercy menu, and click spare.
Ah, got it. So if they're not yellow, you can't do that?
Right, or it won't work at least.
Got it. Okay, that part I missed.
And you were doing that some, from what I recall, but then...
I did, but I didn't connect it to the name.
Oh,
I just
You're just trying it. And...
Yeah, I was just trying it. I kind of like to play with a bunch of options, see what happens.
Right. It seemed like when you were doing it, because I hadn't really done that too much. Like after I learned how to fight, I was like, oh well, it's so much easier to fight everything. But I saw you did sparing a bunch, and when you did the sparing, if I remember correctly, you got the gold, but you got 0 experience.
I definitely got 0 experience. I don't remember the gold. If that's true, then there's the way that you make money without killing people, I suppose, or defeating people.
But do you need to level up? Like, do you need the experience, or does the experience not really matter?
I don't remember if when I leveled up, did our stats go up?
I think you get more health.
Okay,
definitely.
so something went up then. Okay, because I'm thinking with enough gold, you could buy whatever item to raise your defense or strength.
Right.
Or love, raise your love.
Your love. Yeah, you get more love when you level up. That's it.
Yes,
you get more.
That was it. Yeah, love is so funny.
Instead of health, you have love.
Yeah.
So the monsters are hurting your love when they attack you.
Some sort of meta commentary there.
Yeah, I don't know.
We didn't talk about the cell phone.
the cell phone, yes.
Oh my gosh, Toriel, it gives you a phone and you can talk to her as you're going through. But then
I don't remember. Did you use that much?
Several times, yeah. And I got some funny dialogue, nothing that stands out.
Right.
But then Papyrus, which I haven't done it yet because I got to Waterfall and just saved after the hangout, gives you his phone number.
Right.
But I haven't called yet.
I don't know if you did this, but if you go north from the town, you can hit a point where I don't know if it's like triggered by that location. Or
the wrong number song?
The wrong number, yeah.
That song was so great. I was just like bobbing to the song. I was like, this is random and out of nowhere, and people would miss it if they didn't come up here. But that wrong number song was so out of nowhere.
And that's the thing about Snowdin. Like the ruins, like I said, it was like kind of cutesy and sort of bittersweet. Like, Toriel wants you to be her kid.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just want to go home, lady. Like, let me go.
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, that's fine. But then you get to Snowdin and you meet Sans and you meet Papyrus, and like they're both hilarious. And then you just have like these random things like, oh, here's 2 dogs that are married and will fight you, or here's a wrong number that sings a song for you. It's just all this humor and whimsy, and I don't know. I just thought it was delightful.
Yeah, it really was. Especially, I feel like it really got going in Snowdin.
Yeah.
With that delight, where it's just, I don't know if I've laughed I don't know if I laugh at very many video games, to be honest. But I just couldn't stop laughing at this one. There was a north of Snowdin somewhere. There was a snowman. Did you find the snowman?
It sounds familiar.
I'm pulling up this part of the video. He says, "If you be kind, traveler, please take a piece of me and bring it very far away."
Oh yeah.
I have no idea what that's about, but I took.
I took the piece and I've been carrying it with me. I think I may have put it in a box, actually.
I think I put it in the box. Yeah, I put it in the box.
Because I was like, oh, I could go someplace else, and I can take it out of the box and take him someplace else.
Yeah, because it says it heals 45 health, so I assume if you're in a pickle, like, that's how you're going to, get your health back. But it says, please take this to the ends of the earth, which we're in a hole. I assume we're trying to get out of the hole. That's the goal of this game. I don't know. I think there's something about like complexity in modern video games. Like I'm also playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right now, and there's just like a lot of systems. Hades 2, there's a lot of systems. Animal Well, I'm also checking out, and there are a lot of systems. It's very complex, layers and layers, and I feel like this has layers and layers, but they're not complex. They're very accessible and earnest. I think that's the right word for this game so far.
Yeah. And like I said, I was playing part of it. My daughter was like watching me, and we were just both cracking up with the Papyrus's antics.
Yeah.
And Sans. There's like one part where you go to some place and you run into Sans because he's just there wherever you go, and you keep going, and then he appears in front of you. And we're like, what? He was just behind us. And we go back, and he's there behind us again. And I was like trying to figure out, like, can we get them both of him on the screen at the same time? And it's like, no, as soon as the last pixel of him disappears off the edge of the screen, the next Sans appears ahead of you.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And it's like just random stuff like that. Like, we were like, is he here? Is he there? Like, how's he appear in front of us? Can we get both on the screen at the same time? No, we can't. We were just like, just trying these different things to see what would happen, because we didn't know what would happen.
And there's so many other things that are in the game that if you just do this weird thing, something does happen that it makes you think, okay, something will happen here.
Right. It's a possibility.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if it's like the illusion of possibility, or if there really is like a bunch of possibility in this game. That's interesting.
Right. That's what I was curious. So, like, when I saw you fighting Papyrus and the boss fight, I was thinking like, oh, he's going to miss the whole date sequence.
Right.
But you didn't. It was just, it was just labeled differently. Instead of being a date, it was like a hangout.
It was a hangout. Yeah, exactly.
But it was mostly, the whole rest of it was like mostly the same. It was just like a different characterization of it. But he gets into a special outfit. He reads from the book. He's like, oh, I'm wearing clothes. You're wearing clothes. You must really love me. Yep,
exactly. I wonder if later in the game that will influence a different type of ending or a different story path. I wonder if Papyrus comes back. God, there's so much I don't know right now. And later when I'm listening to this podcast after we finish this, I'll be like, oh, you poor naive boy. You didn't know.
But I don't know. So I'm thinking, it seems like you're saying the Mass Effect thing. Like, it seems like there are surface differences, but does anything really change?
I mean, that was a criticism of the game in the end, where it really just came down to like choosing a different color. It's like a portal or a crystal or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was mainly like, it was mainly like the Stephen King, who's one of my favorite authors, talks a lot about the journey is the point, not the destination. And that's partially because I think he messes up his endings. But the story is awesome. I don't know if did you watch Lost, the television show?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, he had the same thing where the people who did that show were very much like Stephen King fans. Were like the whole show, the whole journey was like, that was really cool stuff. Like, we're going to get to really good answers. And you get to the end, there's no answers. It's just like the journey was the point. So maybe that's true here. I don't know.
Or it's easier to come up with cool scenes than it is to actually string them along into a coherent narrative.
Yeah. I mean, endings are hard. Endings are that, just in my creative pursuits, like endings are hard, but everything else, everything else is fun along the way. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of problem, like any sort of like television series, like, are they going to actually have a good ending, or there's so many series where the ending is a disappointment?
It's hard to stick the landing when you've, so many threads throughout.
Right.
I don't know, but this is, I mean, so many people that I respect talk about how just incredibly amazing this game is, and I feel like Snowdin, maybe for both of us, is like, oh, I can see that here, and
right.
If that continues to build through the next, I think there are 4 sections or 5 sections or whatever, like this could be something real special by the end.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, or I'm gonna get to the end and be like, you are a killing machine, and I'm the villain of this. I'm gonna be the villain of this game.
Right. You are the butcher of Undertale.
Lavikin. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff though. That's why I was
gonna say.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, even if nothing really changes, like even if there aren't alternate paths or anything like that, I think just the writing and the humor that was evident in Snowdin was so delightful that and so funny and so just enjoyable. I'm happy with just that. Like if it's just like a really well written story that even if my choices don't really make that much difference, it's still just like a great story so far. Great characters.
Yeah, I mean, it's really I have found what I was looking for when going through my backlog, which is just to find really unique, interesting stories, and this has got one already. So
yeah,
it's given the hype for this, I'm sure that it continues. But I'm going to try to keep my expectations low so that I don't get disappointed.
Yeah, so I'm curious where it goes. I actually played a little bit past Snowdin because I didn't realize that it changed. Like it doesn't really tell you like when the zone changes or whatever.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And there was some interesting scenes in there, and also like the puzzles got harder. I feel like, but there's more story. Like I saw like sort of the story developing, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be a good story. It's gonna be a good narrative.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that the puzzles evolve too. The puzzles, I guess there were some very like, I don't know, like you see a pattern and you need to follow it through the leaves to get through without falling, or hit the ice cube across all the switches. I think it was one of them, and another one was like hit all the X's once. There were some interesting puzzles, but they felt those pieces felt a bit out of place compared to everything else. And I'm just trying to I'm trying to contextualize that within the world for the character who's like, okay, I got to touch all these X's, like what that is. And I think it's, I should just let it go. They're just puzzles. I try to contextualize like the mechanics for the characters in the game, and it's like maybe it's just part of the game. Maybe it's not something that makes sense to them.
Or like Papyrus says like, oh, I built these nasty puzzles for you that will surely defeat you.
That's
then you go to his house, and his library has, creating death traps and also children's books.
That, what? I think that I forgot or missed or didn't make that connection. That is a good point. That is really, when you see, I always think about it in terms of The Legend of Zelda, where you're like, who made these dungeons? Like, why would the boss make this dungeon? And then, this game actually does contextualize. So you're right. I had forgotten about that.
Yeah.
When there's also sorry, good.
Oh, as I say, the only puzzle that really stumped me was there's one, I think in the ruins, where there's like a sign that says press the blue button. I don't know. I didn't see you do this. I don't remember if you caught this or not. But that in that room, there's like a blue button, a green button, and a red button.
Uh-huh.
And you press the blue button in that room, nothing happens. So you go to the next room, and there is a red button, a green button, and a pillar.
Yep.
And so I'm like, there's only one blue button. So I go back and press that button, and it doesn't do anything. I'm pressing all the other buttons. They don't do anything. I'm like going back and forth between the two rooms. Like maybe I read the sign wrong. I'm trying to figure out like what the hell is going on. And then finally the game says, oh, there's a button behind the pillar.
So like, this was... I got stuck there too because I had been reading the signs, but I wasn't internalizing the signs. So it's actually my first night, the first stream, where by the end I was like, I do not understand what's happening here. I'm going to do my favorite thing, which is when I'm stuck on a puzzle, I stop, I go to sleep. Next day I wake up and somehow I figured it out. So that's what happened. So I was, I'm looking at the video right now. So I probably spent the last 5 to 8 minutes just like going back and forth, hitting the wrong thing. I found the switch behind the pillar, but it was still not the right one. And I was like, there's something I'm missing. I don't know what it is, but I'm missing it, and I don't want to look up a guide. I'm going to sleep on it. And when I woke up, swear to God, when I woke up, I was like, you dummy, go back and read the sign. And the sign was, when you leave the exit, it's not really an exit, it just rotates the room. And I was like, oh, so every time you leave the room, it's the same pillars, it's the same switches, but it's just rotated. So then that helped me position which one was behind which pillar, which color was behind which pillar, and then I could hit the right switch.
Oh, really?
That's how I did it, yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay.
I woke up and I was like, I didn't read that first sign. Went back. I had read it, but I didn't think about what that meant. And then the next morning I was like, that was such a weird sign. It meant something, bud.
Yeah. You just don't know what it means when you read it.
No, I had no idea. And then by the time it was late, I was tired. I was like, I'm streaming this and I look like a moron. I'm just going to stop, go to sleep, and I'll figure this out tomorrow. And I love that about puzzles in video games, where I get stuck and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go sleep. And then I just subconsciously work through it and wake up. I'm like, that's it.
Right.
And it's really a fun feeling.
That's a good feeling to solve the puzzle on yourself and not have to look up in a guide what the answer is.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to know, though, like, is this actually a problem that I can solve, or is this some bullshit that, the game developers made that I have no chance of ever solving?
Yeah, and I feel like my patience has gotten shorter as I've become a dad, where I'm like, all right, I got an hour to game tonight. I'm not going to spend 45 fucking minutes trying to figure out this damn puzzle. I'm going to give it 15 and then look it up.
Right. I don't have time for this shit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm out of here.
I got stuff to do.
But it was fun to put it away and sleep on it and be like, I got it. So I was done with the stream that night anyway. So
yeah. So going forward, what do you?
God, good question. So we had talked about those two, and then it was Waterfalls the next one, and then there's Hotland. There's the Core, and then New Home, I think was the 4. But now I don't know how long they're going to be. So I kind of feel like maybe the same length chunk makes sense. So I don't know if that means Waterfall plus the next area, or if we can, go through Waterfall and communicate and be like, well, this is taking like 4 hours. This seems like a good chunk. We can play it by ear.
Right.
So let's do that. I'm gonna load up the game after this podcast tonight and get started on Waterfall. And you said you got through a little bit, not too much.
Yeah, I was doing it, and then I got stuck someplace, and I actually still have no idea how to get past it.
Okay.
So, but I've left it. I haven't touched it for a couple of days, so I'm thinking, maybe if I go back to it now, I might have a new perspective on it. Mm-hmm. But I'll be curious to see if you also get stuck at that point. Or
that'd be interesting.
Maybe sometimes, like, other people, you get stuck somewhere and someone else is just like, oh, you gotta do this.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I never thought of that.
Yep.
But I'm thinking, like, after talking about like the fighting and stuff like that, maybe I'll try less fighting and more, seeing what actions are available and trying them.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try less fighting and more actions and see what happens. Because I definitely got into a fight because that's what I do in RPGs, but also I kind of like that weird battle system.
But also, the game, like I said, the game, kind of, if you're min-maxing, or if you're like playing for like efficiency or, maximum power ups or whatever, everything that you're sort of taught to do as part of a game. The game definitely says fighting is the easiest thing to do. It's the quickest. It gives you the best rewards. So why wouldn't you do it? Yeah,
it's like the path of least resistance, and I wonder if I'm falling into a trap where by the end the game is going to comment on me being that kind of person or that kind of gamer.
People that you slaughter.
Yeah, straight up murderer. I'm just the murderer of this, I don't know, this underground world.
Yeah.
You fell into our hole. We didn't drag you down here, and now you come down here and murder all of us.
Because with the sticks.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
A lot of the monsters, too, are just like, some of them are just like, oh, I don't want to be here. Well, like one of them is like a jelly that just sits there and like quivers and doesn't really do anything. I guess some of them are like, do actually kind of actively attack you, but a lot of them seem like they're just sort of like people you run into, and for some reason you're given like this fight interface, but you don't have to fight them. You
don't have to fight them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was thinking about those the jellies or whatever, kind of like the slimes from Dragon Quest, and it's just like there's some Zelda references, some other very slight references to things. I think there was a few lines here and there. It's just like, oh, this is referential in a very light, not some games are too referential. This one doesn't seem to be too referential. It's kind of fun in that regard.
I mean, the monsters are all sort of like recognizable but still unique, and they all have like their own character.
Yeah,
like there's one that's like a giant eyeball with like arms and legs, and its action is like it's glaring at you or staring at you or just stuff like that. It's kind of interesting. It's like, oh, what does this monster do?
Fingers crossed there's more silliness and funny stuff ahead, and it doesn't get dark with my murder rampage.
Right, it could take a very dark turn, like, oh, you committed war crimes in the underground, and now you have to go on trial.
Yeah, or you don't get any jokes anymore. You're going to be that serious, we're going to be serious too. But yeah, a war crimes tribunal would be a really interesting ending to this game. Oh my god, it ends in The Hague. Like, wait, what happened? I really got off track here.
With you behind bars.
Yeah, exactly.
The sad kid with his hands on the bars, looking out between them.
Yep. I can tell you're a kid because you're wearing a striped shirt. Like, oh my god. It's like some Earthbound. I don't know if you played Earthbound.
No.
Earthbound references. It's felt like there. It's a Nintendo game from the Super Nintendo, I think.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyway,
I mean, something that sort of era is what it seems to be trying to.
Yeah, it has a very.
To.
Yeah, it reminds me of that feel for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody, I don't know. When you first run into Sans, and he is like, "Oh, hide behind this conveniently shaped lamp." And there's a lamp that's the exact same shape as your character.
Yeah. Well, when he said that, I was like, wait, what? My character clearly looks like a very different silhouette than that lamp. And then they came together. I was like, oh my God, it's exactly the same. All right. How convenient. So you're hide here so Papyrus can't see you because he wants to capture you.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Or Sans takes you to the restaurant and like buys you some fries. And like introduces you to all the different like patrons in the restaurant, and I don't know. It's just it's very I don't know, humorous. I don't know. The writing is just very good. I guess that's what it comes down to.
The writing is very good.
Yeah.
Sans definitely did not take me to a restaurant. Did that happen to you?
You didn't do that?
I went to the restaurant. He was not with me.
Oh,
that's interesting. How did that happen?
I'm trying to remember now. At some point in the town. Oh, you know what? It might be like just outside of Snowdin.
Oh, it might be on Waterfall?
Did you? Because there's one point where I ran into him and he's like working at like a stand.
Uh-huh.
Did you see that? I think it's right by a save point.
I think so. I thought that was in Snowdin.
Yeah, and I was talking to him and he said, let me take you to my favorite place. And he takes you to the restaurant and like you sit down at the bar and he like buys you some. Or he orders some fries, and then he's like, I'm not hungry, and he leaves and makes you pay for them.
Yeah, that definitely didn't happen to me.
All right, maybe. So, yeah. So, like I said, I played a little bit ahead, so I might have seen something that you haven't seen.
Oh, that's interesting. Because there was a restaurant in Snowdin. It was the bar.
Yes. Yeah. He takes you there.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because I'm going through my video now, and I'm in the bar by myself talking to everybody. There's like a mouth as one of the characters. Yeah. Oh, then the fire exit where you can't use it. It's like you only use it if you're fire, and the bartender's on fire. It's like, oh my God, what is happening? This is great. It seems so unexpected. Everything's unexpected.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, you go to like the library and like the library.
They're like, yes, our name is misspelled on purpose. So like, I didn't even notice that coming in. But oh my god, so much good stuff.
Yeah, very fun game so far. I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing this with me. I'm very excited to continue on. And thanks, everyone, for listening. This is the RPG Podcast. We will be back next week with Waterfall and Hotland, or just Waterfall. We don't know yet. We'll figure it out. We are the blind leading the blind through this game.
I'm having fun.
Yes, absolutely. All right, folks, thanks so much. If you like our podcast, please rate it on your podcast service of choice, and we will see you next week.